Weddings are supposed to be magical, a day of love, celebration, and new beginnings. But for me, Liora Khalil, 27, from Melbourne, Australia, my wedding day was also the perfect stage for a long overdue reckoning. My fiancé, Daniel, had been nothing but supportive, loving, and steadfast, but his sister, Tamara, had spent years subtly undermining me. She mocked my choices, commented on my weight, my dress, and my career, and constantly tried to insert herself as the center of attention, especially in Daniel's life. I had rehearsed a smile every time she tried to overstep, but inside, anger simmered. I realized the wedding was the ultimate opportunity, a day when all eyes were on me, and yet, carefully, I could redirect the attention to expose her vanity and manipulations. The week before the wedding, I began subtle moves, rearranging the seating so that Tamara would be closest to the camera for photos, gently suggesting to the photographer certain candid shots, and having the MC announce small, humorous stories highlighting my friend's achievements, stories Tamara would never be able to top. I observed her reactions in pre-wedding events, noting the moments when her facade cracked. As I slipped into my dress on the morning of the wedding, I felt a thrill of anticipation. I wasn't just the bride, I was a strategist, and today, all her previous transgressions would be reflected back on her. I reminded myself, no confrontation, no shouting, only carefully orchestrated, subtle humiliation that would leave a permanent mark. The ceremony started beautifully, with soft music, flowers, and family smiles. Daniel was radiant, and for a moment, I felt pure joy. But as Tamara approached the front row, I noticed her subtle smirk, her way of claiming the limelight even before I walked down the aisle. That was my cue. I had prepared small interventions, a perfectly timed program insert highlighting my own journey with Daniel, subtle commentary in the MC's script that hinted at Tamara's obsession with attention, and carefully chosen seating arrangements that would force her into awkward proximity with relatives who didn't particularly tolerate her antics. As I walked down the aisle, cameras were focused on me, but I made sure Tamara's expressions were also caught. Her eyes narrowing, lips pursing, and body language betraying anxiety. Every small movement, every subtle attempt to steal attention, was now visible to friends, family, and the lens capturing every candid moment. During the vows, I felt a surge of control. The officiant asked us to share our personal anecdotes, and I recounted one that involved Tamara, innocent to the casual listener, but hilarious and humiliating to anyone who knew the backstory. Her attempts to interject or look clever were gently foiled by my timing, the MC's subtle prompts, and the audience's laughter at precisely the moments she expected attention. The photographer captured every smirk, every nervous glance, every attempt at self-importance, and I made sure those images would later be shared widely among friends and family. By the time we exchanged rings, Tamara's energy was visibly frayed. She was still physically present, but socially and emotionally she had lost control. The reception hall was bathed in soft golden light, laughter echoing off the walls, and floral arrangements meticulously positioned for maximum impact. I could feel the excitement buzzing in the air. Daniel was radiant, chatting with family members, completely unaware of the subtle drama I had set in motion. Tamara, however, was already positioning herself at the center of the room, adjusting her dress, tossing her hair, and flashing her practiced smile to the nearest cameras. I had anticipated her behavior and created contingencies. The seating plan had been subtly tweaked so that Tamara was placed near relatives who had long-standing tensions with her. I made sure the MC casually referenced humorous incidents from my own life, some including Tamara's past attempts to embarrass me, but all framed in a way that made her look ridiculous while I remained the composed bride. When the first dances began, I deliberately chose a song that had personal significance between Daniel and me, with lyrics that mirrored our bond. Tamara tried to step into the frame, to redirect the attention toward herself, but the photographer was already instructed to focus on me, and every candid shot captured her expressions of frustration and desperation. The guests' attention naturally gravitated toward my choreography, my smiles, and my laughter, leaving Tamara off balance, scrambling for recognition. By the end of the evening's first hour, I could see her energy draining. Every small attempt she made to steal attention, tossing compliments, laughing too loudly at a joke, adjusting her posture, was quietly and elegantly countered by my planning. It was subtle, surgical, and effective. The cake-cutting ceremony presented the perfect opportunity for another layer of subtle revenge. I had intentionally chosen a cake with intricate details and a design that Tamara had once mocked during a pre-wedding shopping trip. As we approached the cake, the camera shifted focus, naturally highlighting the beauty of the moment. Tamara tried to insert herself, leaning slightly forward to get a better angle, adjusting her makeup mid-shot. I had pre-placed a small, decorative bride and groom topper, positioned perfectly to obscure her face from every photograph. Every time she attempted a glamorous pose, she was partially blocked or photobombed not by me, but by the design itself. During the ceremonial feeding of cake, I orchestrated a small humorous comment. "Careful, Tamara. Wouldn't want to get frosting on your designer dress." The audience laughed gently, but the subtext was undeniable. Her attempts to steal attention were now being playfully highlighted for everyone to notice. Tamara's smile faltered. She realized the audience was complicit in the subtle humiliation. By the time the cake ceremony concluded, Tamara's posture had changed. She was seated, almost defeated, constantly adjusting herself, aware but powerless. Every guest had caught on to her diminishing influence without me ever raising my voice. I could feel a deep satisfaction. It wasn't cruelty. It was precision. Speeches were always the trickiest part of a wedding. They could elevate or humiliate in seconds. I had spent weeks preparing small, seemingly innocent anecdotes about my relationship with Daniel. Some funny, some sentimental, all carefully framed to highlight Tamara's past meddling or vanity. When Daniel's best man spoke, I gave him subtle cues mentioning humorous incidents of attention-seeking behavior involving Tamara without naming her directly. Laughter erupted, with guests catching on to the implied target. Tamara's forced smile tightened, her eyes darting around nervously as she realized everyone had understood the joke at her expense. Then came the maid of honor's toast. I had pre-arranged her speech to include a gentle but pointed story about family dynamics, highlighting Tamara's overbearing tendencies. The audience chuckled knowingly, and I could see Tamara's confidence crumble further. Every subtle comment was a piece of evidence in action, proof that her behavior, once hidden behind charm, was now visible and undeniable. By the end of the speeches, Tamara was physically present but emotionally defeated. Every guest now perceived her as overbearing, competitive, and desperate for attention. Meanwhile, I remained poised, joyful, and composed, the clear center of admiration and focus. The dance floor was alive with energy, the perfect stage for the next layer of subtle revenge. Daniel and I had rehearsed a choreographed first dance, one that symbolized our bond while carefully commanding attention. Every step, every glance, every movement was deliberate, designed to naturally draw every eye to us. Tamara attempted to interject her presence, weaving between couples, offering her forced smiles and dramatic spins, as if the spotlight could somehow gravitate toward her. But every attempt faltered. I had instructed the DJ to subtly adjust the lighting and camera angles during key moments, ensuring I was always perfectly illuminated while Tamara's face was partially in shadow. When we moved into a fast, playful section, I invited Daniel's close friends to join, creating an energetic circle that pushed Tamara further to the periphery. Her frustration was palpable. Every forced attempt to regain attention resulted in awkward interruptions and minor collisions, each captured candidly by the photographer. By the third song, Tamara was visibly exhausted, fidgeting, and unable to perform her usual attention-seeking antics. Guests now naturally gravitated toward our joyous energy, often ignoring her attempts at dramatics. Each laugh, each cheer, was a small victory, a public acknowledgement of her diminished influence. Midway through the evening, a surprise toast was announced by my childhood best friend. The speech appeared innocent but was carefully crafted to emphasize Tamara's behavior over the years without naming her directly. As the crowd laughed and gasped at each anecdote, I observed her reaction, lips tightening, shoulders stiffening, and eyes darting anxiously. I had prepared subtle cues for the photographer, capturing her expressions at peak moments: embarrassment, annoyance, desperation. Every frame became a piece of undeniable evidence for anyone who knew the backstory, ensuring Tamara's attention-seeking behavior was now immortalized in photos and videos. Even the MC joined in, referencing a few humorous incidents from pre-wedding events, each highlighting Tamara's obsessive need for the spotlight. The audience laughed, nodding knowingly, while Tamara's attempts to interject were consistently foiled by timing and spatial arrangements. She was still present, but no longer in control. The bouquet toss was the perfect stage for a final, subtle humiliation. I had intentionally chosen the moment to throw the bouquet toward a group of single female friends, all positioned in a way that included Tamara. She lunged forward, trying to assert herself, but the throw landed gracefully in the hands of someone else, someone she had previously belittled. As she stumbled to recover her composure, I made a light-hearted comment. "Careful, Tamara, don't hurt yourself trying to compete." The room erupted in gentle laughter, yet the point was crystal clear. Her obsession with attention had backfired. Every guest could now perceive her desperation while I radiated poise, joy, and confidence. By this point, she was emotionally drained, and her social influence had been entirely eclipsed. Every failed attempt at charm, every flustered glance, every awkward adjustment was a quiet victory, one that left me internally satisfied and fully in control of the narrative. As the evening wound down, I stood quietly, observing. Tamara had receded into the background, socially exposed and emotionally drained, while guests continually praised the joy, elegance, and energy I had radiated throughout the night. Every small maneuver, carefully timed photographs, orchestrated lighting, subtle verbal cues had compounded into a complete reversal of control. Even Daniel, who had been blissfully unaware of my minor machinations, leaned in, smiling with pride at how seamlessly the evening had unfolded. I realized that the best revenge wasn't overt confrontation or anger. It was precision, patience, and a quiet, undeniable display of consequences for Tamara's years of manipulations. By the end of the night, Tamara had learned her place without me ever raising my voice or creating an overt scandal. I was radiant, confident, and in complete control. Guests were left impressed by my composure, grace, and subtle brilliance, while she was quietly humiliated and sidelined a perfect and satisfying reversal.
Thank you for being here. If you enjoyed this, go watch the one on the left and don't forget to hit like and subscribe to the channel for more tales of triumph over injustice and a saga of ultimate revenge.